kind of get settled and take your seat, and we will get started. Um, my name is Barbara Foushee. I am the mayor of this all-America city. It's all-America city 2025, and I want to welcome all of you to the Drakeford Library Complex to celebrate a beloved member of our community, um, and her collection of memories, Miss Frances Shetley. First thing I want to do is recognize um, current and former elected officials. I see my colleague, Councilmember Haven O'Donnell. I saw her. She has on this fly hat. So just look for the hat. Um, I will say at the microphone, her time with us is shorter now, as she has chosen not to run for reelection. I do want to say to her publicly how much she will be missed at the dais. There are things that you can't replace. History is one of them. And her body of work with the town of Carrboro I'm just amazed. We're talking 2 decades of Tuesday nights and all the things that go along with being an elected official. So I do want to lift up Randy. She's to my right at the dais. I don't even know what that's going to look like, like she's not there anymore. But she'll head off into the sunset and continue to do great things. And there are some former elected officials here. I do see a former alderman, Alan Spalt. He's sitting right in front of me. I saw Jay Bryan. He's over against the wall. And I don't want to miss anyone. Is Susan? I sat with Susan at the dais. Former council member Susan Romaine is in the back smiling very beautifully. And I think that may be it for elected officials, and glad to have you with us today. So the next thing, unfortunately, we do have a change of plans for today's reading. Frances had a minor health issue to arise yesterday. She's doing well and she's stable, but she could not be here today. She will be represented by her family. And her family will be sharing their favorite stories from her book. And we really look forward to hearing those from her family. And we will also film these remarks and share them with Frances so that she can look at them at a later time. And so today is a very special gathering because at the very young age of 98, one of Carrboro's longtime residents and former town alderman, back when that was the name of the town council, has done an amazing thing. After a life of doing amazing things, she has written a book called Vignettes. This book is a collection of her memories of growing up in Calvander, being a country kid who went to school in Chapel Hill, marrying and raising her family in Carrboro, and helping to shape Carrboro on important issues including women's rights, same-sex partner rights, and sustainability. The town of Carrboro is proud to have formally lifted up racial equity and sustainability as our 2 town pillars and the cornerstones of our Carrboro Connects comprehensive plan. This kind of history isn't what you find in history books or in minutes. It is the lived experience of someone I admire, a strong-willed woman who was determined to make changes. I do remember going to Frances's home when I ran back in 2017 and sitting down with her and talking with her at her kitchen table. She was very clear, about her service, and she was excited about mine. I visited her home several times, and just really appreciated her support and her guidance as I ran more campaigns. It seemed like more campaigns. So Frances, today we appreciate your strong spirit for being a part of very important changes within the Carrboro community, and now writing it down to share with all of us. The town is pleased to have a copy for Frances's book for our archives. And our Drakeford Library also has a copy that I encourage you to check out and enjoy. I want to thank Erin Sapienza, Kelly Hagan, and Sarah Wall from the Orange County Library for setting up a special exhibit in the library downstairs for today's celebration, where you can find a copy of Vignettes along with other memoirs by women authors. I hope that you all will take the time to stop by and see this exhibit on your way out, and let others know to come check it out when they visit the library. And before I close and turn it over to Sherry Jones, being involved in local politics as Frances was, she would appreciate me reminding everyone to vote in the local municipal and school board elections. You can do it today right here in the Drakeford Library Complex. Just go down on the first floor and cast your ballot. It is my pleasure to turn the podium over to Sherry Jones, who will share some of her stories about Frances, who she knows well after years of serving as Frances's campaign treasurer, a very important job, and dear friend. Sherry Jones. Oh, there she is.
Well, I'm a horticulture gal, so this might be a little flowery. So, anyway, I'm Sherry Jones. My husband Rodney and I have lived in the area for the past 54 years, since he graduated from Carolina in 1971. Although I didn't personally know Frances until I joined her Carrboro Garden Club, community garden club, some 40 years ago, Rodney and I had already benefited from her diligent advocacy for bikeways, her efforts to rescue the historic Alberta cotton mill, now Carmill Mall, from demolition, her participation in numerous civic advisory boards and commission in Carrboro and Orange County, as well as many other worthwhile social and environmental initiatives. From my involvement in groups such as the Garden Club, I remember our then 3-year-old daughter, Katie, being delighted to pick figs from their garden, to my awareness of her dedication to the entire Carrboro community, to my serving as the treasurer for her highly successful run for Carrboro board in 1987, I grew to appreciate and respect this quiet yet feisty maverick of a woman. Frances seemed to be in the right place at the right time and doing all the right things. A few months ago, she invited me to visit her at her home to share Vignettes, her new book of anecdotes and photographs, and with lots of input from her very talented children and grandkids. For several memorable hours, she turned the pages of times past, recounted experiences and her stories of a childhood in rural Orange County, life as a vivacious young woman in a growing Carrboro and Chapel Hill. Read the page about the owner of Sutton's Drugstore, for example. And newlywed years in Chapel Hill, Richmond, Virginia, and later in the home she and Tom Shetley and their growing family shared on Hillsborough Road in Carrboro. Tom seemed the perfect soulmate, witty, creative, and a darn good writer himself. And the stories and photographs. As the saying goes, every picture tells a story. Open any page of Vignettes, and you will be treated to a delicious smorgasbord of stories to be relished. Some 50 years ago, eclectic, unconventional Carrboro was dubbed the Paris of the Piedmont. It then seems only fitting that Vignettes, the poignant and highly personal memoir of Carrboro and its surrounding community, is now bestowed upon us by its author, our own raconteur, the eclectic, creative, authentic, and yes, unconventional, Frances Lloyd Shetley. As Frances was unable to come today, the Shetley family are here to share their favorite stories and tell us about her book. Well, hi, I am Gay Bonds, Frances's daughter. Our mom, Frances Lloyd Shetley, has always appreciated how religion, politics, and local values shape each new generation of our family. She began writing down her stories sometime after she married our father, Thomas Amson Shetley, and had her first child, me. Each tale she's written reflects a separate, real event, as seen through her eyes. And upon completion, her story would be placed in a folder in her desk. Why is it called Vignettes? Well, the folders full of stories grew fat over the years, and she and I often reminisced about our lives, and we started talking about how she should write a book. Each story or vignette is really complete in and of itself. Together, they record a real history of the evolution of our family. They also record the families and our communities changing values over the decades. Women didn't have a voice when Mom was born. Mom was one of the women in Orange County who helped change that. Why the name Vignettes? Well, each tale is complete in and of itself. Put them all together in a book, and each story or vignette is connected to the other stories, like the leaves on a vine, to document the life of not only her family, but her community. It's really been a family affair putting this together. There are tales about the family members and local folks. All of Mom's children became main characters of her stories and helped edit for accuracy. I helped with editing and taking photos for her book, and her grandsons, Tom Bonds and Sean Ashley, they were instrumental in technical aspects. She's already begun writing stories for her second book. As Mom says, I have more stories, and she does. And we will begin the process of checking what new tales she may have already placed in a folder in her desk. Thank you for being here today.
Oh, come on.
Here I come. Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming. Recognize so many people here. I really appreciate it. I want to thank Meg and Amy for really doing all the hard work of coordinating this, and I just helped them a little bit. So I'm nervous. I'm shy, so I just want to read my favorite story in the book, which is about my grandmother's flower garden. That's Nora Merritt Lloyd, and her flower garden at the farm in Calvander where my mom grew up. My mother Nora's flower garden in Calvander. In a fenced-in 20-foot plot of good rich soil, my mother Nora grew an abundance of flowers, all the kinds prized by country women at that time. Bachelor buttons, mostly two-toned in shades of sky blue, royal blue, and rose pink, stood alongside coleus, beautiful and so easy to grow. And the bright forget-me-nots can't be left out. Hollyhocks were a must-have, and marigolds were a local farm favorite. Best of all were the petunias, some in old clay pots, others cascading from boxes up on posts. Red, yellow, and dwarf petunia were everywhere in her garden. Mama got all her plants by trading with two of her sisters. Mama, Aunt Maddie, and Aunt Annie would carry a plant from their gardens every time they visited each other. That's how they all kept such a great variety in each of their gardens.
Hey, thanks everybody for being here. I'm Mitch.
Can you raise the mic?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna read a story that my granny has told me a million times over and over from when I was little, and I would come and visit her. It's called Letter to My Grandson Mitchell. Dear Mitchell, thank you so much for your visits and phone calls. They mean so much to me. Recently you reminded me of a fairy tale that I read to you when you were a little boy. Remember Billy Goat's Gruff? You sat in my lap and held the book while I read the story with great animation. There were yells, shouts, threats, and snarls. The ugly troll and the smelly goats had quite a verbal battle over territory. During one of our readings of Billy Goat's Gruff, I answered a phone call from a friend. I told her that I'd have to call her back later because my 2-year-old grandson Mitchell and I were reading Billy Goat's Gruff, and we were at a very crucial scene that we were anxious to hear about. Note, we had just read it 5 times. He would say, "Read it again, Granny," and we'd read it again. Anyway, little Mitchell pulled on my sleeve and said, 2.5, Granny. And so I corrected myself and told her he was 2.5. How could Granny make such a terrible mistake? Thank you, Mitchell, for growing up to be a wonderful, caring person. Love, Granny. And then, little side note, Mitchell loved this book so much, he kept a copy both with Joe, his mother, and with me. The first copy is his Granny copy. The second was his copy, kept by Joe to read to him. And then if you look in the book, on page 100, there's 2 pictures of my 2 copies of the book. And yeah, that was really cool. My granny was my granny as well as almost like a second mother growing up. And that's just one of my favorite stories by her. There's several other ones. Thank you guys.
Is Sid's gonna read next?
How about if I can get a copy of that?
Oh, yeah. There's one up there, yeah.
Right. Sid is my wonderful nephew, but he's also a pretty shy guy, so I asked if I might step in and do a story in his place. And I was looking through which story to choose because they're all just wonderful, but then I came across this one and I thought, that's my mama. That is a story that illustrates my mother so well. Back in 2017, I had to have extensive drainage work done on my property. I'm a Lloyd and I take care of what is mine. The Lloyds go back a long way here in this area. And if you know about the Lloyds, let me clarify and say right now, I'm of the poor praying Lloyds. You might have heard something about the rich and drinking Lloyds. There's no fault in that. They have more markers in town. By town, I mean Carrboro. I came from Calvander, one of those places and names in Orange County with only a few markers, a place only the locals would know. The land where I live today is mine. Not the family land, not inherited. My husband and I bought it when we moved back here in the mid-1950s, after a few years away in Virginia, the only time I lived in any other place other than home. That was in a time of war, and that's another story. But this land, where I live today, as far as I'm concerned, it's Lloyd land, and it has been for decades. I put my marker down on it to show people that the poor and praying Lloyds have been working in this area a long time too. I believe in family, in my family name, and I believe in the land. And I believe that things we do in this world last long after our time here on earth. This drainage work out here on my land, it was a serious job. The landscaper needed one of those big bulldozers and some other heavy equipment to dig around and move dirt and tree roots and rocky soil. He finished everything up after a few days and carried all of that equipment to his next job, except that big, ugly bulldozer. He left that thing sitting in my front yard. That big, yellow, scratched up hunk of metal sat there where I had to look at it every day. Weeks went by. The job was long finished, and still it sat. You'd think he would need it, wouldn't you? I called his office. I had to leave a message, so I said, "Mister, I don't plan on providing long-term storage for your heavy equipment. You come get this bulldozer if it's yours, and if it's not done by 9 a.m. tomorrow, I will spray paint it pink to go with my flowers." I had several errands that I needed to run that morning, so I added the paint store to the list. And I took my time at the store, said hello to people I recognized. This area's grown a lot, but I still know people. By the time I got back, it was well after 9 a.m., and the bulldozer was gone. And you know, I was disappointed. But I've got a can of pink paint, and I'm going to use it someplace. I know how to make my mark. That is my mama.
Hello, I'm Sam, Frances' son. And let's see, I'm not much of a public speaker. I'll try. All right. Master Sam Shetley's first billfold. Our son was a little boy in the mid-1960s when I gave him his first man's billfold. I printed his name, address, and telephone number on the ID card inside. I also included a $1 bill. I told him this is where men keep their money. They put it in their billfold in their back pocket and take it out when they want to buy something. They never take it off to take it out and show off. He was so proud, and I was pleased that he was happy with it. He was 6 years old and is now 67. He remembers this and reminds me of this story at least once or twice a year. He has since moved on to another billfold, but I am sure he doesn't show that one off nearly much. There's another story that's not in this book that I wanted to tell about when my father and I were picking blackberries in a cow pasture when I was like 7. And we'd been out picking berries for the afternoon and stopped for lunch and spread our picnic blanket out next to the fence. And while we were having our picnic, a big Jersey bull comes walking up. And my father says, just be very quiet and still, and he'll leave us alone. And so we poured our Coca-Cola out, and you know these bubbles of Coca-Cola are just so good. I couldn't help but slurp it off. I went, shh. Well, that bull heard a challenge because they snort. And that bull went, you talking to me? Snort. And he started to come over there to do something about it. And so my father went, oh God, and we clambered over the fence and sat there on the other side of the fence and looked at the bull for about 10 or 15 minutes until the bull just sauntered off. And so we talked about that many times over the years.